Hi beautiful black women, my name is Abby. In this video, we're going to be talking about Deontay Kyle. He is a TikToker and a podcaster who has recently went viral for saying something very simple. He basically said, men should hold other men accountable and that women have valid reasons not to trust men. And of course, the backlash has been loud, nasty, and very revealing. But before we even get into the clips or the breakdown, I want to start with a message to every black woman who is watching this. Just because a black man says the things that need to be said in the community doesn't mean he's a safe option, okay? It doesn't mean that you can trust him. It doesn't mean he won't turn on you later. It doesn't mean he won't eventually date outside his race. And it definitely doesn't mean he won't still degrade your skin tone, your hair texture, your features, and everything else about you as a black woman when he gets the chance. We have to stop confusing a moment of clarity with genuine solidarity. Some of these men are only saying the right things because they want praise, views, and recognition. That doesn't mean they care about us. That doesn't mean they're doing the work in their real lives. That doesn't mean they're still not participating in the same misogyny and anti-blackness that harm us every single day. You need to watch what they say over time. Watch how they treat women who disagree with them. Watch how they talk about black women when they're upset. Watch who they uplift and who they mock. One good statement doesn't erase a pattern of behavior. Okay, we have to stop getting excited every time a black man shows the bare minimum level of awareness, because that is not impressive. And if anything, it should be a red flag that this type of message is still rare enough to go viral. Now, with that being said, before we get into the full commentary, I want to show you some TikTok clips of people reacting to what Deontay Kyle has said. First, I am going to show you the TikToks of people disagreeing with him. There are not many clips of people disagreeing with him because I didn't really want my YouTube to be about that, because it's mostly black men disagreeing with that, and I just don't really want that over here. And then we're going to play the TikToks of people who understood the message and agreed with it.
You may not harass women. You may know how to take rejection. The majority of men that most women deal with do not.
Yeah.
And you are accountable for that as well. Because I don't got time to figure out which white people are nice, which white people aren't racist, or da-da-da-da-da. I have to go on the actions of the group.
Right.
The group as a whole and the history of that group as a whole tells me that they are a danger to me and they are not to be trusted.
Right.
And if you can understand that as a black man and your stance towards white people, then you should absolutely be able to understand women's stance towards you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a war on you waged by women. Actually, the war get a little thicker when we start talking about it from the perspective of a woman and the greater society of racism and white supremacy being waged against black people, and then the patriarchal society being waged against women. So they have to deal with two elements. One of those elements we don't have to think about, and honestly, we're perpetuated.
Mm-hmm.
And it's perpetuated against us young to look at women as objects,
Right.
You know, to look at women only through the lens of a sexual desire and not as the human being that they are. And when you understand how to deal with women on a human level, you understand how much women will enrich your life.
This whole Deontay Kyle, men are accountable for the men who are terrible bullshit is really like opened up a train of thinking for me, and I really got to get this out. It seems as if women want to perfect the social environment instead of existing within it. And what I mean by that is, like, imagine a hunter goes into the woods and instead of accepting the fact that there's bears and mosquitoes and old trees that might fall and dangers, instead of him accepting that, he starts complaining. Why are there bears out here? Oh my God, why are the mosquitoes biting? Instead of choosing to stay indoors and go live in the city and buy your meat out of a market. Follow me. I'm a bad person if I say, if you don't like those environments and the negative things that come with those environments, stay out of those environments. We have these very large conversations about a very small amount of people. And again, I just do want to reiterate, if you don't like the negative experiences that come along with like the environments you like to be in, don't try to change said environment. It's too big. There's too many variables. There's too many people to depend on lining up with your personal moral code. Instead, remove yourself from said environments. Why Why am I having a conversation about what happens at the club? Why are we regular people with 9-to-5 jobs having full-blown discourse and conversations about what happens when a woman rejects a man in the club and he like, you ugly? Why are we talking about that? Most of us don't even participate in that. Most of us, I would like to say that if you're a married woman, why the are you in the strip club, the club, a bar? What are you do? Go to a nice dinner. Sit at the house. Be grown.
So bro gets on here and says, hey, a lot of men that women deal with can't take rejection and maybe even harass women. So as men, you are accountable. As a man, you are accountable for a terrible man and his actions. You just because you're a man. And then proceeds to use the what do you want to say? The comparison of a racist white person. Basically stereotyping a man and comparing it to a racist white person and stereotyping those people. What are we even talking about? And then women are getting on here saying, hey, if you guys disagree with him, then you're part of the problem. Maybe it's because I don't harass women. Why am I accountable for what are we talking about? Why would I be sitting here saying, hey, I'm accountable for a rapist or a harassing man or a man that can't take rejection? Why would I sit here and no? Y'all aren't gonna sit here and say that men need to be accountable for bad men. That's like a man out here catching bodies and shooting people. We need to be accountable for that too because he's choosing to do what he does? No. Y'all are weird on the internet, bro, I swear. It's just like saying, okay, Meg Thee Stallion lied on Tory Lanez. Are we gonna sit here and say, all women lie on men? Because all women don't do that. All women don't accuse men of doing. Now some do, but do all? No. So should women be accountable for Meg Thee Stallion lying on Tory Lanez? I think not. But by y'all logic, yes.
Okay, some people completely missed the point, and they have exposed themselves in the process. Let's talk about what Deontay Kyle has actually said, because the way black men have reacted, you would think he has called for their mass arrest. All he said was this: if you as a black man can understand the pain and mistrust that comes from being a victim of racism, then you should also be able to understand why women feel fear and mistrust towards men. He said that women don't wake up one day and decide to start hating men. The fear comes from lived experiences, from trauma, from watching the way men treat women every single day. And instead of getting defensive about that, men should recognize it and work to be safer, more accountable, and more aware. He also said that it's not enough to just not harm women yourself. You have to hold other men accountable. You have to speak up when your homeboy is being aggressive, manipulative, disrespectful, or dangerous. You can't just say, well, that's not me. You have to care about the kind of culture men have created together. And that has sent a lot of black men into a fucking spiral.
So here is my quick little 2 cents regarding the Deontay Kyle debacle, because just a few points. First point, the amount of black males that I am seeing ducking and dodging, bobbing, and weaving accountability that is long overdue. Every last one of y'all are an embarrassment to our community, and you ought to be ashamed. Moving on. Point 2, I saw that response video from that black male, that imbecile dunce of a male, trying to equate women wanting a perfect society instead of existing in one we live in to a hunter going into the woods and being surprised to see bears, mosquitoes, and flies, etc., etc. That equivalence is so ignorant. It's painful, because a hunter being surprised at natural occurrences in the woods is not the same thing as women complaining about the very unnatural occurrences that happen in our society. Do you know what's not natural? The fact that funeral homes don't want to hire males. That ain't natural. You know what's not natural? The fact that every woman I know, every last one of them has been violated or abused at the hands of a man. That's not natural. Okay, so us being alarmed by those things and wanting change. All right, I'm moving on. Third point. I'm seeing a lot of black males, in an effort to dodge accountability, claim that they are only responsible for protecting the black women that they know and care about. Moms, aunts, grandmas, sisters, girlfriends, wives, etc. Who's gonna tell y'all that despite all the protecting you're doing, they're still being harmed by males? Who's gonna tell y'all that? How much protecting are you doing for the women you care about, you claim to care about, if they're still being harmed by males? And as a matter of fact, have you even asked these women in your life if they've been harmed at the hands of a male? Especially a male you know. Hey! And then take it a step further. Do they even feel safe enough with you to give the honest answer? Because there's a lot of y'all who beat on your chest and swear up and down from your ego that the women in your family are safe, and they're not, and you don't even know about it. They're protecting your ego and your ignorance with their silence. And the reason why you don't know is because why would a woman confide in you, her being a victim at the hands of a male, when you are saying free Tory? Why would your sister, your daughter, your mother, your wife, your girlfriend feel comfortable confiding in you the vulnerability of her being a victim at the hands of a male when you don't believe Megan Thee Stallion, Halle Bailey, Cassie? The list can go right on. Y'all swear up and down you're protecting women that you care about, and you ain't even protecting them. So if you're not protecting them and you're not protecting anybody else, who are you protecting? The answer is yourselves. You are protecting yourselves, and you are under this false idea that you're protecting other people, but really it's about you. You are more than okay with women taking on the brunt of male violence, because as long as it's not you taking on that brunt, you're okay with it. Y'all don't want y'all's ass beat at the hands of a man, so you're okay with watching it happen to other women. Can y'all just say that out loud so we can move on?
Malcolm X would have spit on some of y'all the way y'all talking about black women. I was just on Twitter, see everyone talking about the Grits and Egg podcast, and about how a lot of men are saying, oh, he's pandering to this, he's pandering to that. Oh, the second black women start putting money in his hand, he started to change. And as an avid watcher of the Grits and Eggs podcast, I'm like, what are they talking about? A lot of his takes have to do with excelling the black community, talking about the history of why black people act a certain way they do, talking about music, talking about sport. It's a wide variety. I'm like, what the heck are you talking about? Y'all, I go to his page. It's a video saying that men need to take accountability. Especially when it comes to making women uncomfortable, making women unsafe. And I'm sitting here thinking, this can't be the video everyone's talking about, pandering this, pandering that. Even halfway through the video, he's talking about how a black woman changed his life. And it's like, what about this video upset y'all? I feel like it's fair. If you're with a man who's being that predator and you say nothing, you're just as guilty as he is. Y'all can say whether my take is right or wrong. Even when it comes to the law, you with somebody who's breaking the law, you get charged with the exact same thing as an accomplice. So how is this any different?
Deontay Kyle got on here and told black men to protect black women and hold other black men accountable when they are abusing black women or mistreating us. And y'all cussed him out. Y'all called him a simp. Y'all cussed this man out because he said that Diddy is wrong and that Tory Lanez is wrong and that y'all need to check abusers that you see in your real life and stop letting your homeboys beat on his baby mama. And y'all said he's pandering to black women. He said all men benefit from abusive men because they just have to do the bare minimum and all of a sudden they're a good guy. He said, be a good man. Hold the abusers accountable and protect women instead of just standing there and saying, well, at least it wasn't me. And y'all got mad at him.
So the reaction has been extreme. Black men are calling him a simp, saying he's pandering to women, claiming he's dividing the community, all because he said women deserve to feel safe and that men need to hold each other accountable. That's all it took to expose how angry and bitter so many of these black men are. And it's not just a few trolls in the comment section. This has been a full-on uproar from black men across the app It's been video after video of men yelling into their phones, twisting his words, and making it seem like he called them all monsters. He didn't. But you know what? If the shoe fits, I guess you should wear it. If someone's saying men should take responsibility for the culture they created, if that is enough to make you feel attacked, then you're not as innocent as you want people to think you are. I really hope Black women are paying attention to what's happening, because this reaction is not about Deontay. It's about the fact that most Black men are deeply uncomfortable with the idea of being held accountable for anything. It's not about who said it or how nicely he said it. It's about the fact that someone told them, you're responsible for the behavior of your peers. And instead of agreeing, they responded with violence. What's scary is that this kind of reaction happens every time a Black man tries to publicly support or defend Black women. Every time. He gets attacked, he gets shamed, he gets labeled a simp. Black men say that he's just pandering to Black women. This is not a coincidence, it is a pattern. And that pattern should tell you everything you need to know. This is what happens when men who have never been forced to grow up emotionally are suddenly asked to do the bare minimum. They explode. They lash out. They punish the messenger. Part of the reason they act like this is because they've been coddled for generations by society, by their families, and especially by you, Black women. You have always protected them. You have always made excuses for them. You have gone to war for these Black men. A lot of you have risked your lives protesting and marching. I can't say I've ever done that. I've never been to a protest, but hey. And what'd you get in return? Nothing. When it's time for them to speak up for Black women, a lot of them get quiet. When it's time for them to hold each other accountable, Black men get defensive. When it's time for them to offer the same protection that we have always given them, they get resentful. They believe they don't owe us anything because we never required anything from them in the first place. So now that this conversation is shifting and you're demanding more, they're throwing tantrums. They're not used to being called out, and they definitely are not used to being asked to reflect on the harm they've caused or allowed. This shouldn't be controversial. Think about how wild this is. A man simply said that women have valid reasons not to trust men, and men should be held accountable for how they treat women. That's not a radical idea. That's basic human decency. The fact that this simple statement has caused a viral level uproar just proves the point. It proves that far too many Black men don't want to do the work. They don't want to change. They don't even want to listen. They want to keep benefiting from the same culture that harms Black women. And they want us to keep protecting them while they do it.
The era of enlightened Black men is here. We see it with Cat Williams. We see it with Kendrick Lamar. We see it with Mark Lamont Hill. We see it with Ryan Clark. And we see that all the other corny Black men who have bought into a philosophy that does not include pro-Blackness and the Black family, and Black men getting over whatever they feel slighted by Black women and moving closer towards Black women. The men that do not align with that philosophy are dropping like flies. And they were taking hit after hit that I knew eventually they was going to come for Deontay Kyle. And also the other dude, Justin. They going to come for Justin too. Because they need to feel like they are up. Because they not. They down. The corny Black men who bought into the philosophy of capitalism and white supremacy are dropping like flies. And we have so many enlightened brothers that are coming in to just gently help them along in this transition as we move past whatever it was for the last 15 years and go into more pro-Blackness and more community-based community. So keep your head up, brother. It had to happen eventually, because as we move from whatever the hell that was to what we're going to, it's going to be a lot of resistance.
The goal is to keep y'all bashing Black men. It's a gender war. No. The goal is to keep you embracing white ways of thinking and being. And for some of you men, it's working, because you heard one of the most powerful, radical, and basic concepts in Black cultural thought and called it pandering.
You may not harass women. You may know how to take rejection. The majority of men that most women deal with do not. Yeah. And you are accountable for that as well.
Deontay did not say the wrong word. He did not misspeak. You're just not reading what he's talking from. That right there is called black collectivism. The idea that I am because we are, and if we are not, then I am not. That if my siblings are suffering, then I am suffering. If my siblings are successful, then I am successful. But a full plate is nothing to brag about if my siblings are starving. My safety is nothing to celebrate if my siblings are still in trouble. Black collectivism, the idea of the collective over the individual, that is one of the most foundational ways of thinking that makes you culturally black. Because Deontay brought that up in a discussion about black women experiencing violence, y'all said that that's pandering. Y'all said y'all not responsible for what anybody else does. Some of y'all are actually on Malcolm X's internet arguing that as long as the women in your life are safe, you owe nothing to anybody else, and what's happening to other black women should not be your concern. You're arguing that even speaking up against abuse, harassment, and mistreatment without a but, a and, or at the same time is out of the question because you or nobody you know is like that. That is called individualism, and that, apart from actually having pale skin, is one of the whitest ways you could walk through this world. And I personally am not trying to walk through this world like a white supremacist. I'm not, because that's what's happening. Deontay gave a very basic example that we try to give black men so they can understand how patriarchy has affects them and how it harms black women. I wouldn't hear that and try to identify with the white folks in that scenario. I tell you what. And there's a lot of black men who do not understand that scenario because in that scenario, they do not identify with the woman who is black. They identify with the person who is white. They can hear.
And if you can understand that as a black man and your stance towards white people, then you should absolutely be able to understand women's stance towards you.
They can hear that scenario, and because they have already embraced that individual white way of thinking, they can hear that and go, actually, the real victim in that scenario is the white person, and that's who I identify with because they're being generalized, and that's not fair. So that's what it is. That's the issue. There's a lot of black men who got Muhammad Ali on their wall, but they are Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump in their head. That is why they're mad at Deontay.
Black men, if you think Deontay Cal is pandering just for calling out misogyny and abuse, then the problem is not him, it's y'all. Holding men accountable in our community is not pandering. In fact, that's what we desperately need right now. This is really about protecting our community, protecting each other, not tearing each other down. What's wild is the same ones crying about being called out are the same ones posting Malcolm X quotes. Yet forget he said a nation can rise no higher than its woman. The hate y'all giving to Deontay Cal for simply speaking the truth, I know for a fact you would hate Malcolm X if he were here today too.
Calling Deontay Cal a panderer is intellectually dishonest. And missing the forest for the trees is something real easy to do when you do not want to see the forest. Think about it like this, man. Boys always talk about no snitching. No snitching. Well, you're willing to be held accountable legally for the actions of another man. But this man right here said from the ethic and moral space of his heart and said, hey, men, we're accountable for the other actions of men. And y'all jumping through the roof right now? Man. Calling Deontay Cal a panderer is intellectually dishonest. Then a message that was curated for men, that was made in the vernacular in a situation for us men to understand and it's still being seen as pandering. In which part of the message do we feel like he was trying to get women's attention? He was specifically talking to us, arguing that you a good snake and you not like the rest of them, while at the same time you fall in line with the pattern of domination and power anytime we start talking about violence to women, whether we're talking about Meg Thee Stallion, whether we're talking about Cassie, whether we're talking about any of the nameless victims that R. Kelly was talking about, or whether we're talking about the endless victims that Bill Cosby was doing. There's always a way to fall in line with the patterns that's propped up by power and domination. A lot of us can say, I mean, right. I got a mama, I got a sister, I got a daughter, I got a grandma. And that means much when it comes to how we are preference, privilege, and popped up by all these systems of domination that leads to the violence to women. You see what I'm saying? Whether we like it or not, when our homeboy even talking about the cat calling or doing whatever they're doing and we don't do nothing, yeah, we did that. Okay, so maybe you don't subscribe to the politics of snitching, but let's go to this Muhammad Ali metaphor he just laid down. He was making the analysis about power and domination and how patterns are mobilized by said power and domination when it comes to belief and practices. We understand that, right?
You may not harass women. You may know how to take rejection. The majority of men that most women deal with do not.
Yeah.
And you are accountable for that as well. Because I don't got time to figure out which white people are nice, which white people aren't racist, or da-da-da-da-da. I have to go on the actions of the group.
Right.
The group as a whole and the history of that group as a whole tells me that they are a danger to me and they are not to be trusted.
Right.
And if you can understand that as a black man and your stance towards white people, then you should absolutely be able to understand women's stance towards you.
The last thing, man, when it comes to the idea of gender wars, and we recognize that our casualties ain't coming from women, but it's an institution that's made by men, that's propped up by men, that's leading to all of us having depression, leading to us having the highest, you feel me, rates of unaliving ourselves, then we start recognizing who has manufactured this idea of a gender war and who really stands to gain.
You may not harass women. You may know how to take rejection. The majority accountable for that as well.
I'm so glad we're having this conversation. I saw a Conscious Lee video earlier, and he said to say that Deontay Kyle's pandering is being intellectually dishonest. And it is. Because if you're listening to the broader message, not trying to push a narrative, and you're listening to it objectively, you'll see what the broader message is. And let's not ignore the fact that there's always going to be a group of men that, if you try to champion women or support women or try to defend women in any way, you're going to be pandering. There's also a group of men that couldn't wait to see Deontay Kyle say something that they disagreed with so they could try to put it on blast. Those people know who they are, so there's no need to call out names. When it comes to the message itself, right? Accountability. Men have to be accountable for other men, right? And it doesn't mean that you have to take personal accountability for all the wrongdoings of all the men in the world, right? If you're one of the good ones, right? It just means hold each other accountable. It also means be aware. You can't ignore the fact that there's a history of violence and abuse against women in this country, in this world, by men. You can't ignore that. You have to understand that that is going to be how a lot of women see men, even if you're one of the good ones. It's the same way we as black people look at police, right? If you're wearing the uniform, I have to assume that you're one of them, that you're part of that club. I don't care if you say you're one of the good ones. I'm going to proceed with caution because of the uniform that you're wearing, because of the history of violence of police against black people. It's the same concept of the way women look at men. So if you choose to ignore that history, you are being willfully ignorant, right? And you're being intellectually dishonest to say that that is pandering, to say that the history of how people have been treated by another group of people should not be taken into account when you are being viewed, if you're a part of that group. That just makes sense. So to say anything different is ridiculous, and it's not pandering. So the people who are listening to it objectively and who want to understand it are going to get it. And the people who don't, they never will. They don't want to. So men need to keep pushing this conversation and having this conversation more, because when it's women talking, it's them preaching to the choir. So men have to champion this issue. And that's just the way it is. Some people are never going to get it. They don't want to.
I want y'all to understand something. Deontay Kyle was right. Yeah, he was very right. Not only he was very right, but he was too right. In the way he broke that down so eloquently, I don't understand how so many black men find a problem with what he said. Labeling him as a simp, labeling him as a panderer for stating facts and having the back of black women. That's how I know a lot of black men have gotten to a point where you're programmed in hating black women. The minute you say something in the defense of black women and sticking up for black women, you're a beta, you're a simp, you're a panderer. Stating facts. Did you know there's almost 100,000 black women right now missing, wiped off the face of this earth to never be seen again? Did you know that? Did you know the mortality rate of black women giving birth to our sons, to our daughters right here? They're 3 times likely to die giving childbirth, during childbirth. The poor, piss poor mistreatment of black women. Malpractices. Doctors, nurses that don't want to listen. Black women trying to communicate, hey, this don't feel right. Oh, you okay? It goes back to slavery. They don't believe that black women, the pain of black women is real, is legit. It takes for a black woman to lose her life for it to be taken serious. But when a black man sticks up for a black woman and the grievances that black women deal with, he's a simp. He's pandering. This is how low vibrational a lot of y'all black men have became. And you're so engulfed and invested in the hatred of black women. Since y'all like to sit around and whine and cry about women, about black women on these podcasts, when y'all gonna whine and cry about the issues that black women deal with, huh? Y'all whine about the issues such as black women ain't being submissive enough. Black women ain't feminine enough. They don't got time to be feminine and submissive to a group of men that hate them. Huh? They don't got time for that. The issues that black women got to deal with is life-threatening. The issues that you have with black women, black men, is not life-threatening. So we got work to do, black men. We got work to do. A lot of work to do.
To every black woman who was able to get through this video, please stop making excuses for these men. Stop thinking you can educate, heal, or guide them into respecting you. Please stop confusing one good statement with true transformation. Watch how they responded to Deontay Kyle. Watch how upset they got at the idea of accountability. Watch how they twisted his message to make themselves the victims. This is who they are. This is what they believe. It's not your job to save black men. It's your job to save yourself. Black women, I hope you liked this video, and until my next video, love you so much. Bye.